Welcome to After the Show, your weekly movie podcast brought to you by A. Scully and Sid Talk. We're addicted to movies. Are you? Hello, Sid Talk. Welcome to After the Show. Hello, listeners and viewers. Are there any viewers? No.
I hope not.
Yeah, if there's some viewers, we are in trouble.
It's unauthorized.
Because I am completely naked.
I can verify that is not the truth.
Sid Talk is only wearing a hat.
Also not true.
Well.
That's not the before the after the show discussion. It was mostly audio and this movie.
So, Sid Talk, are you feeling better this week? Because last week, you sounded like you had a cold, and so did I.
And this week I sound like I have a cold, but I feel better.
I seem to have slipped past it.
Slipped past it? Sneaky?
Yeah, sneaky.
Lucky?
I use stealth.
I still have, and you can hear it in my voice, still have the snottiness, but, it is what it is.
I mean, one could say.
Yeah? One could say.
That the snottiness.
Duh. I think we need to move on.
All right. So it's Saturday, May the 20th. This is After the Show. We're a movie review podcast. Every week we look at a new movie. And on episode 788, we look at the new movie Air. It's a 2023 movie. It's on streaming now, Amazon Prime streaming. It's rated R, and it's from Amazon. So, Sid Talk, give us a synopsis of the movie Air. Is it R-rated? Yeah, it is.
It's only R-rated because of all the F-bombs.
Yeah.
There's nothing else in this movie that could...
No.
The summation is, it is a biopic of the... Is it a biopic? Sort of like the telling of how Nike signed Michael Jordan for the original Air Jordan.
Correct.
Fictionalized, I'm sure.
Well, I'll tell you about that in a minute. I'll give you the real synopsis. Air follows the history of shoe salesman Sonny Vaccaro and how he led Nike,
yeah,
in its pursuit of the greatest athlete in the history of basketball, Michael Jordan. So that's what it's about. I went to History versus Hollywood, like I always do.
You do?
And the people from Nike who are still around say this movie's about 80% accurate.
Oh, right on.
The only complaint they had is the order in which things happened isn't exactly right.
Oh, how do you manage that?
I don't know. Maybe they did it for dramatic effect. Like it's more dramatic if you put it in this.
But I mean, it's real life events. How do you rearrange?
It is, but as you know, with biopic type things, they do get shuffled around.
It's weird.
So, Sito, what did you think of the movie Air?
I enjoyed it. The end.
And it's under this new Amazon Sports banner. When it said that at the beginning, I was like, oh, sports?
That's very specific. I find that kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not a sports person, nor am I interested in sports. But Nike, the history of Nike, I can get behind that. I used to work in a shoe store, a Nike store.
And this is your sports connection.
It is. I mean, I know a fair amount about sneakers, let's say.
Gotcha.
So Ben Affleck is the director here. This subject matter actually involves just a lot of people stood in offices talking to each other. Could be boring.
Blasphemer.
To be fair, spoilers, they sign a basketball player called Michael Jordan.
If you didn't know.
But aside from that, it's a lot of talking about how we're going to do this. The majority of the film, there is no action in this film, right? Because why would they be? They're not going to put a car chase in here because there wasn't one.
I feel like that's unfair unless you have a very specific definition of action. There's lots of action.
It's a drama.
Yeah.
In less experienced hands than Ben Affleck, I feel like it could have been boring, but I feel like he does provide something as a director. And the dialogue is actually really good, I think, in this. That keeps you entranced. I found it a really interesting story, and I didn't 100% know the story. Everybody knows that they signed Michael Jordan, so that can't be mysterious in this plot. You know that.
When you say everyone, I mean, not everyone.
I feel like everyone would know that Michael Jordan became part of Nike. you know?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
There's no mystery to anything. But the mystery to me was how these dudes interacted with each other. And yes, that might not be 100% true how they interacted with each other, but I like the drive from Matt Damon's character, because he's this guy who's like, well, it shows you very early on that he's kind of he's a gambler.
Gambler,
right?
Yep.
So he's a bit of a hot shot, like he could be successful or he could be a failure in a second. Like you don't know.
And he's
what
willing for either one of those things to happen.
Yeah. So having him as an employee who your business kind of banks on is kind of very risky. So the character that Ben Affleck plays.
We didn't establish why the guy who started Nike hired him. Like they were friends. I don't know. He just said in the end, no one else would have hired me, so thank you.
Yeah.
And he was there at the beginning as well. So we don't know any of that story. Like there's no origin story of him being at Nike, except that at this point, the Nike guy is even like, why are you here? Like
what are you?
What are you in this company? Yeah. And he's basically, the premise is they have a whole division of people who are supposed to get or sign new basketball players, like NBA basketball players, to wear the shoe and pay them, basically, which was going on. That was kind of I don't know, was that relatively new in the 80s, I'm guessing? But
I think that was when it started, yeah.
So Nike had a whole division for that, but it was failing because the perception of Nike wasn't that it was cool or that it was a sports shoe at all. And so Matt Damon is in this division, and if they fail, it's basically going to shut down the basketball division and just go on with their Olympics and other sports that they're, kind of tapping into, and famous people and whatnot. So he's sort of up against, how do I get it? Because he really loves basketball as well. So I think that him as a character was like, I don't want to lose my job. And also, I don't want a job that doesn't have basketball in it. Maybe, I got that vibe.
Yeah, because he thrives on basketball. You can see it. When he's in that boardroom at the beginning, it seems like nobody else is that interested apart from him.
Correct. He kind of corrects everyone who's not a basketball nerd. The idea here of Nike as a company, it was super successful, but this one branch they were trying to, on Shark Tank, people come in and they're like, we made $2 million last year. And you and I are like, so why are you there?
Yeah, exactly.
Why isn't that enough? Right. Well, Nike was like, this isn't enough. We want to also own basketball. Right. And at the time, Adidas and Converse had signed up famous players and all that. So I guess it was just the thing at the time. So that's the foundation of why they even sought out the young Mr. Michael Jordan at all. It was like to save this fraction of the company and make a lot of money, of course.
Yeah, because it makes a point right at the very beginning of the movie to show you the market share for the different companies in sneakers. Nike, Converse, and Adidas. And Nike are way behind at this point, right? They're not performing at all. And it's to do with the era when the brand with the 3 stripes, Adidas, was everywhere. Like every hip-hop artist was wearing it.
I don't know about every hip-hop artist, but we know that Run DMC
I know in
was.
England it was, as soon as Adidas hit with the 3-stripe brand thing, all you could see was everybody wearing it, like just regular people everywhere.
And would you like to explain to people why we are saying Adidas instead of Adidas?
The company Adidas was founded by a guy called Adi Dassler, and that's where the name came from. So he's a German man called Adi Dassler.
Well, what we learned was his name was actually Adolf.
It was.
And he went by Adi.
But that's definitely not good PR.
So so Adi Das, what's Das? Just yes?
I actually don't know.
But that's why most of us say Adidas, and that's fine. That's how we always say it.
Even I say Adidas.
They might even say it in the commercials. I don't know. But Adidas is how they explain in the movie, and you've explained it to me before because they've actually told you when you worked for that store.
Yep.
So if you get weirded out by how we're pronouncing it, that's okay.
We're just trying to be proper.
Well.
But I think I actually, in regular, normal life, I say Adidas. I also say Nike.
Are you saying this isn't your normal life?
No, I'm presenting an award-winning show.
What award was that?
I don't know. Best use of Adidas in a podcast.
Best podcast ever.
Yes.
Is that the award?
So I enjoyed the story because it is presented to you. He does the lots of 80s music, so it sounds really fun.
Mm-hmm, a lot.
Sometimes the music is on brand with what's happening. You're like, oh yeah, those lyrics kind of make sense with what's going on right now. Sometimes it's just, let's play some 80s music for the hell of it, right?
Well, I have a feeling Mr. Affleck had a purpose every time, so you have to rewatch it to dig deep.
Mostly takes place inside Nike's. Where are they? Beaverton. It said
Colorado?
Beaverton on the front. Yeah. So that it's inside their like headquarters, mostly in the offices. At one time, he goes out to go and speak to Michael Jordan's parents. Let's address the elephant in the room, Michael Jordan. He's in this movie. I mean, not the real Michael Jordan, an actor playing Michael Jordan. But it's weird, isn't it? You don't see him.
I mean, it isn't weird because we kind of clocked what they were doing. But so throughout the movie, as we're going to meet the young Michael Jordan, because most of it is about getting to the point of making him the offer up against all these other companies, dealing with his parents, and then just the guy's inspiration, the man's inspiration to like why he really wanted to sign Michael Jordan. And so when we do meet him, you never see his face. But in the meantime, as he's telling the story, we're actually seeing images of Michael Jordan, like the real Michael Jordan, in magazines and on the basketball court and in other clips and whatnot, like near that portion where they're getting to where they might sign him up, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the choice was, we all know Michael Jordan and he's not gone or anything. And telling the story with his real face made more sense to me. And I said, I feel bad for the young man who played him because he literally, they had his face, you know, those old skits where like even on Randy Baby, you know, those movies where he'd pick up the melons in front of like the naked boobies and like they would turn and put a feather in front of somebody's. Yeah, like you're covering up the thing, like a naked part or something. That's what they kept doing. Like his face was turned and someone's head was in the way and then he'd move and the door was in the way. So that was almost more distracting than if we had just seen a young man who, you know, if they picked him because he sort of resembled him. He never talks really or anything. So it was just a little bit awkward, I thought.
Yeah, I found it distracting when they come in to visit and the mum and dad get out of the car. And then Michael gets out of the car and he's talking to the mum and dad, but then just goes, "Hi, Michael." Like, as though he's like...
Well, I think mom made it very clear
that he's pretty...
He's off limits until we make the decision.
Right.
I don't want you clouding his mind or trying to manipulate him. I'm here between you and him. And when the time... And then later in a phone conversation, she says, yes, it's time for you to talk to him. So I think that was partly why that was going on.
It is a little bit distracting, the Michael Jordan part.
I think so.
I did clock it because I said to you, I think what they're doing here is Michael Jordan's too big.
I don't know if he's too big. It's just that the disconnect between seeing all the clips, they would have to have made...
clips with this actor in it.
Correct.
Which would have been really weird.
Right. And then as they show clips of Michael Jordan getting older, because we see clips of his whole career, including golf and baseball, and then doing other things, and as a 40 and 50-year-old man throughout the different little clips, right?
Yeah.
That would have just been really difficult to manage. So I'm down with it. It just was like, I just had to put it out of my mind.
Weirdly, it's like a feel-good story. Like, I felt happy that everybody was... And there are moments of tension when I'm watching this movie knowing full well what's going to happen, but I'm still like, oh, does this really... Are they going to get turned down? Or, you know, I don't know why I was thinking that, but I kind of got behind it so much. I was like, wow, they could actually... blow everything here. The guy Jason Bateman plays in this movie, where he says to Matt Damon's character, "You're a guy who's gambling everything here, but you're not really thinking about us people who actually need a job.
Yeah.
And if this all goes tits up, which it might, we're going to get nothing." So
he didn't seem to be too worried about that. I mean, he kind of looked at him one time, and I think he had a little bit of something, but because the vibe I got was that he might be a compulsive gambler. I don't know this man. My apologies if that is not correct, but I feel like he was just like, we're just going to do it.
He also seemed very lonely, the Matt Damon character. I mean, if it wouldn't have shown you the shot at the beginning of him in a casino, I wouldn't have had that on my mind, but I kept having that on my mind of, oh, he's like a guy who he sits on his own at home when he's finished work, doesn't he?
Yeah, or he's at work all the time.
You see him basically lives off cereal and milk.
Yeah, from the convenience store.
Yeah, so he just seems lonely, and like he also seems like that gambling thing might be a problem. Even though it doesn't give it to you as a problem, though, does it?
It doesn't, but I mean...
I think it's just like, we need to know what kind of guy this is. He can be compulsive, and he can also be, what?
Right. He's good at telling the future. He's very perceptive because at one point he sits down with Michael Jordan's mother and says, I'm going to tell you how it's going to be when you go to these meetings with Adidas and with Converse. And he describes the men and how they act and what they say and what they're wearing. And then he suggests to her what questions to ask and then tells her how they're going to respond. And then later we see those meetings and he was right.
Exactly right.
So he's very perceptive. He's very tuned in to things. But you said, yeah, his life is kind of like Mike from Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of.
Just I'm very good at what I do, but I'm also very lonely. And
or maybe he's not lonely. Maybe he doesn't care.
No.
Just because you're alone doesn't mean you're lonely. He's just alone.
I just got this lonely vibe from the way they portrayed him here. Let's get on to the actors in this movie. We've got Matt Damon as Sonny Vaccaro. What do you think of Matt? He's the main thrust of this movie.
Correct.
His character.
Well, yes, he is. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like it's all on his shoulders, really. Everybody else is kind of just going along with him or trying to stop him. But what he's doing is his own mission.
Correct.
So it is basically like Matt Damon mostly. So what did you think? Good?
Oh, that was really good because there are moments of like real reflection, not inflection, introspection. Introspective thought where you can see him just buckling down like this is the biggest, because we see him play craps there at the beginning, like he's shooting craps and sort of like that's the mind that we're seeing happening when he's about to go do something and he hops in the car to go meet the parents. Every single time there's that moment of real intensity with him, and I just feel like he does a good job. But I like Matt Damon anyway, so, you know, I'm biased.
Ben Affleck not only directs here, but he also stars as Phil Knight, the man in charge of Nike.
I think I like Ben Affleck as well. I think
Was he wearing a wig?
I believe so.
I just thought he might have done his hair weird, but it was funny, his hair.
The only thing and this isn't an acting thing, this is directing. No more spinning, Ben. No more spinning around.
There was just one incidence of spinning.
No, there were 3.
Oh.
I'm very tuned into the spinning. I was like, what are you doing?
He wants to keep it interesting.
You're better than that's not interesting. You're better than this, Ben. But as far as performance, I mean, I got the vibe of who the guy was. He took a bunch of risks, started this company, kind of like Alan Sugar, you know, selling shoes out of a truck, and then has developed it into this sort of like guru Buddhist philosophy thing. But then the board of ideas of how people are supposed to approach their job at Nike has things like your job isn't done until the job is done. And like the perfect outcome is the goal and all that kind of stuff. It's very corporate. So it's like he's wrung himself through the ringer by selling his company on a public market. You know, now they have a board of trustees and all that. But he's still at the core. He tells them about doing your breathing, and he runs, and he's got his Buddha in his office, and he gives them some philosophy. So I really got that vibe from him. Although he does have a very obnoxious purple vehicle.
Even Matt Damon questioned him at one point. He's like, what did he say? Did the Dalai Lama have...
Yeah, is this going to end up with some like bullshit? Oh, yeah, he did.
He was in between two worlds or something, wasn't he? Like he was Mr. Business guy and also spiritual guy.
I feel like Ben, and I call him Ben because he's my friend, he pulled it off.
Yeah. Jason Bateman is Rob Strasser, and he is in charge of...
Marketing.
What do you think of Jason?
I always like Jason. I mean, it is what it is.
I feel like he is good, Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good at being that guy. The guy he is in this. You know, just a guy that you know.
He's just
like
a guy.
A regular guy. I mean, yeah, a regular multimillionaire guy in this, but I mean, he's not, is he, in this movie?
Correct.
They've not made it big, have they, those guys yet? But he has to do a lot of, I'm annoyed because where the hell is Matt Damon's character? Like, what is he doing behind my back kind of thing?
What's he thinking?
Chris Tucker, who we've not seen for some time, I don't believe.
No, it's been a while.
Plays Howard White. What do you think of Howard?
I thought he was really good, actually. Like, really convincing as the guy who cares about Matt Damon's character, fulfilling his destiny or whatever you want to call it. I mean, again, I do understand this is a corporate story.
Yeah.
We're not talking about people like saving the world, except that at the end it did say that the guy who runs Nike has donated over $2 billion to charity over at the
Exactly.
time. So I get that there's some balance over there. But this guy what was his name?
Chris Tucker as Howard
Right.
White.
I was convinced that he was really into what that character must have done in the real life situation, right? I mean, I got the vibe that he maybe knew him, or he was really like inspired by him. And then he was really consistently both things. Like he talks really fast and he's a little bit trying to be funny a lot,
There's a lot of charisma.
but then the way he looks at each actor in the scene, like there's always this like intense look. I'm like, he's good. He's graduated to like, drama acting. I like him. I liked him.
Chris Tucker will always be remembered for Ruby Rod.
Yes.
Awesome.
Gosh, yes.
Yes.
Ruby.
Viola Davis plays Dolores Jordan.
That's Michael's mama. And
Yeah.
she does a good job.
I hadn't paid attention and didn't realize she was in it. And when she popped up, I was like, whoa, Viola Davis is in here. She always brings like some kind of air of, I don't know.
Quality.
Yeah. But she was very good.
Very good, because I was convinced I understood this mother. I'm not a mother, but I'm telling you, if I had ever had a gifted child, or a child who I had, whatever the circumstance is, however he got to be as good as he is, I would want to make sure that the world doesn't just stomp all over him and like spit him out and chew him up. And that's like her vibe. Is like she has already understood, because she's already got him through college basketball, right? Also getting him into college or whatever he had to do. And then he played really good in college, and then getting him signed up to the NBA. She knows the game, but she doesn't like it. So
Yeah.
she's not going to put up with any shit from
And
anybody.
she's responsible for a pivotal thing in the movie, which is getting Michael...
Changing the world, basically.
Yeah, like a cut of the shoe money.
Yeah.
Every pair of shoes that's sold with the Jordan name on, Michael gets a percentage.
And that had
which
never been done.
never been done until that point. And I
Right.
liked how Ben Affleck's character is like, hey, maybe we just ruin the whole industry. by
At first
doing
he's
that.
like, we can't. And then he just goes, fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it.
There's your F word for the day. But yeah, there's a lot of F words in this movie. And that was when he just decided, okay, fine, we'll just do it.
Directed by Ben Affleck. He directed The Town, Argo, Gone Baby Gone.
Gone, baby, gone. Oh,
He's a good director. I always liked him as a director. What did you think of him directing here? Do you think it compares to those? Or?
do you remember what I said at some point during the movie? He just makes everything
Stop
look
spinning.
good.
But stop spinning.
Stop spinning. It's a bit too, what's the word they use on landscape artists? Twee.
Yeah.
That British word for how it's kind of quaint or something. I'm just not in love with it. Other than that, I said he makes things just look good. And we're talking about 1984. The office environment was, and I'm sure he has obviously set direction and a cinematographer and all that stuff, people collaborating, but he's the one looking through and deciding the final thing. And he just makes things look amazing. I would watch it again just to look at it again.
Just look at it.
Just look at it.
All right, IMDb reviews. This is where I'm going to look at some IMDb reviews of people who really hated this movie and gave it 1 star.
Right on.
So here we go. Number 1 says, horrendous. I don't know how it's possible for anyone to give this movie a better rating than 6.5. I'm rating this a 1 because of the inflated, horrendous cinematography. Way too many close-ups and spinning camera moves. I can't help but laugh when they hold on Matt Damon's face whilst he gives a watered-down speech that lasts for about 10 minutes. Boring.
Okay, so I have to agree with the spinning part. No offense to Mr. Affleck. But everything else, are you kidding me? Bad cinematography. Grow up. Grow up, you loser.
Second guy says, bad movie. Just Nike signing Jordan, which he hardly is in scene. They made us 1.5. Worst movie.
They made us 1.5.
Yep.
Right on.
That's the whole review.
Right on. Got it.
Finally, this is just a 2-hour Nike commercial. It's a disgrace and a disaster. Nike are terrible and use Asian children slave manufacturing. This should not be seen, even if it means sacrificing everything.
I mean, I get that. I wouldn't argue with the position that you're glorifying a corporation that, exploits humans. I get that. However, I don't know what you do in the world to try to eliminate everything that's not righteous or noble or perfect or whatever. And I'm not saying that, if it's not righteous and noble, just ignore it. It can be as bad as it is and just live with it. But they did address it, because even the marketing manager says,
"Oh yeah,
I know that our shoes are made in Taiwan, and I should be ambivalent to that, but I am not. And so I'm dealing with that." So that means at least someone in the company, or at least in this movie, he had someone address it, and that was it. That was the one scene and the one line.
Yeah.
So I get that, but what we're actually talking about here is that you could take the same philosophy about this guy believed in something. They changed an entire industry. He shook up an entire corporation, basically added something to the world, the entire world population that didn't exist, which is the idea of Michael Jordan's greatness, right? The whole world wouldn't have really have known of Michael Jordan as we do if it weren't for that.
Right.
And the inspiration of taking a chance in life, taking a risk, thinking different, whatever it is, that's the takeaway. So, I don't know how to address that person's concerns, but I understand where you're coming from.
All right, those are the IMDb reviews. We didn't see any extras because we see the streaming version. But conclusion, I am going to give Air a score of 7 out of 10.
I'm giving it an 8.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well done.
I'm better than you.
Well,
better.
You like this movie more than me. That is all you've got on me. I liked it. I really enjoyed it for a sports type biopic, which I'm not really into usually. I actually enjoyed what Ben Affleck brought to it.
Nice.
So thank you to Amazon. Next week, we're going to look at Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which is basically the second Shazam movie. The first one was kind of fun, if you remember.
It was.
Movie recommendations, I am going with one of Ben Affleck's and one of Matt Damon's. So I'm going to give you the Bourne series of movies and Gone Girl, which is a David Fincher film that starred Ben Affleck that I really like.
Nice. And I'm going to go back to the early 2000s, but we're not in the early 2000s anymore. We're up to 2012, and I'm doing all science fiction for 2023. These recommendations are not based on quality. They are based on the fact that they're on the list of all the movies I've ever seen. I don't always remember every movie I've ever seen, but I know that I've seen them. So 2012, from the year 2012, not the movie 2012. We've already covered that when it came out before, is Prometheus, which you particularly love.
I do. It's a prequel to Alien, but they tried to
but it's not.
Say it wasn't, but it clearly is.
The Bay.
I don't know that one.
I don't know for sure if I do either. I know I've seen it. And maybe it's one of those horror movies maybe that I've seen, and then I kind of just put it on the list. The Hunger Games.
Very good.
Total Recall from 2012.
Awesome. Oh, right. Yeah, the one with Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
Yeah, not as good.
No, the other one's just too cheesy and weird to be compared to.
Yeah.
And then After Earth was 2013.
That's Gary Witter's movie.
It is. That's all we're going to say.
Yes.
That's it. Those are my recommendations.
All right. Good recommendation. Well, some good, some bad.
Correct.
Yeah.
Neutral.
Hey, Scully stuff. I've been playing more games on an emulator. I've been having fun going back in history, looking at older games. And I found a Top Gun game, said Talk.
Yeah.
So it's on the PlayStation 1. And I was like, Top Gun? I didn't even know there was a PlayStation 1 game. So let me give it a go. Started it up. It's got the opening to the movie. That's how it starts, like the actual video. And I'm like, this is cool. We've got the aircraft carriers. We've got Highway to the Danger Zone. We've got planes taking off. Cool. And then it cuts to like, it's all video. Cuts to your Maverick. So it's from your point of view. So imagine you're inside Maverick's body.
I mean, I'm not.
Looking out of his eye sockets.
Got it?
So you're the camera, basically. And
Goodness.
then you walk into this room, and you know the guy who gets buzzed in the tower, the bald guy?
Kind of, sort of.
That actual actor is there. And he's like, hey, you're welcome to Top Gun. We're going to take you through all the training. But it's weird because you're Maverick, but it's not the same people from the movie. It's like a bunch of other people. I don't understand exactly what it is, whether it was before, like another training course he went on, or it's just a reimagining because they couldn't afford all the actors. Anyway, it takes place like a movie. There's cutscenes like that where it's actual video. But then you go out and he says, like, first you got to go out and shoot down some drones. So you go out and then it's the actual video game where it's a really kind of basic, there's a plane in the middle of the screen, you move the plane, there's targets to shoot, you line them up and you shoot them. There's not really that much to the game. But then every time you do a level, it cuts back to this story, which is told through this movie. And then I'm like, yeah, I want to see what happens. I want to see like what they do with this. So I'm about halfway through the game. It's really fun. It's called Top Gun Fire at Will. It's on the PlayStation 1. I didn't know it existed until this week. And I'm quite happy I found it. It's fun. Sid Talk, what's for dinner?
Sandwiches and roasted potatoes.
Will the roasted potatoes be on the sandwiches?
They can be.
Nice.
And these will be, homemade sandwiches. Potentially. You know what happens sometimes, though? We do this, and then I go do some stuff, and then it's about supper time, and I'm like...
Pizza.
Pizza or sandwich made by some other lovely human being. And that's their job, to make my sandwich for my supper. But either way, we'll have sandwich.
And what is your advice? And then we'll leave.
My advice isn't really advice. It's just me telling you something. And it's because of life events recently. And I guess the only way I can really say it is, like, the reasons that I show that I care about people do not include me trying to stroke or boost anybody's ego or like to cater to them feeling important or I shouldn't say not good about themselves. Not that, but like, I don't know how to describe it. But like if someone demands that everybody kind of like caters to them because they think they're more important than everyone. And so in order for that person to like you, you're supposed to then, stroke their ego all the time. I will not do that, even if I love you. So like the way I was thinking about it is that if there's ever a need arises in any of the people that I care about, for whatever reason, illness or inability, I am the person who will come, and I pardon the graphic nature of this, but if you need someone to like wipe your ass, right? Something's wrong, you're ill or you can't do it, you're incapable of caring for your body at that moment, I'm that person. That doesn't bother me. I'm willing to do it because you need it, and I care about you, and I want you to have dignity, and I want you to get better, or whatever the circumstance is. I will wipe your ass, but through the course of all the other times, like the best times of life, just so you like me, I'm not going to kiss your ass.
Very nice.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do
Catch what I'm throwing?
Yes.
So there you go.
So, yeah, very nice. Very good advice. Yeah. ascully.com is where you can go and get this podcast. There's some good advice for you. Go there, get this podcast. We're on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can also get this podcast from Spotify, iTunes, Amazon. And we're also on YouTube in the new podcasting section. And I found that we've been getting steady hits on there.
Nice.
Thank you for watching us on YouTube. Well, you don't watch us. You listen to us, but you know what I'm saying.
Look at that one picture.
Yeah. You can email ascully@ascully.com if you want to send me any feedback. Don't send email to Sid Talk. And you probably couldn't guess our email address anyway, but don't send anything there. And stay classy, Mr. Ben Affleck. I like it when you make a new movie. Please make some more.
And I'm going to say, think for yourself, or someone is definitely doing it for you.